Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Benchersky back. We're going to work on our final math lesson for remote learning. I'm really encouraged that we will be back together next Monday and we can jump into math together then. But for the time being, I want to go over our very final unit, which is shape that we're going to be finding the area from, which is the area of a trapezoid. Now, before that, I wanted to very quickly review what we've done so far. So here we have our parallelogram, okay? And the formula for that was area equals base times the height. So in this particular example, the base is 2, the height is 6, and 6 times 2 is 12 centimeters squared. Now, here's a triangle. Now, this triangle has measurements of 3 and 5. Now, a triangle is half. So if I took a parallelogram and I cut it in half, I would have 2 triangles. So the formula here is base times height divided by 2. Base times height would find the area of a parallelogram. We want half of a parallelogram. So area equals 3 times 5 divided by 2. 3 times 5 is 15. And 15 divided by 2, or cut in half, is 7.5 centimeters squared. So I want you to remember those two formulas so far, base times height and base times height divided by 2, because with our third and final shape that we're going to be working with, it gets a little bit different. All right, guys, so here is our trapezoid. Now, I knew right away some of you were like, what's a trapezoid? And now that you see it, you're like, oh, a trapezoid. Okay, so a trapezoid is also a 4-sided polygon, much like a parallelogram. The big difference between a trapezoid and a parallelogram, as you probably see right away, is the two sides, the two bases are not the same length. If they were the same length, they would be a parallelogram. But one side is slightly shorter on a trapezoid. So again, it's 4-sided. 2 sides are equal and parallel, and one other pair of sides are parallel but not equal. So a trapezoid is slightly different. Now, the question becomes, I can't just do base times height, because which base am I using? Okay, one base, let's just call this B1, is 8, and let's call this base 2 is 6. So I can't just do base times height because both bases are not the same length. They're different lengths. The height is the same. The height is 3, and the height can be measured anywhere from the one base to the other. It can be measured here. It could be measured here. As long as it's from one base to the other, we have the height. So the height doesn't change. The height is 3. But the question becomes, how do I find the area of this if the bases are different heights? Well, it's actually not that hard. In order to do this, we need to find the average of the two bases. We need to find the average of base 1 and base 2. Well, I think we already know how to find averages. We've been working on how to find averages, or the mean of numbers, since September. And if you remember, in order to find the average or the mean of a set of numbers, we add them together and divide by how many there are. So the formula for this trapezoid and for any trapezoid is going to be the following. I'd suggest copying this down. It is area equals, we're going to use brackets here, base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2. Divided by 2. So what we're doing here is we're going to add the bases together, we're going to multiply by the height, and we're going to divide by 2. So what this is going to do is it's going to give us the total of 2 bases and then multiply by the height, and then we're going to average them out by dividing it by 2 because there's 2 bases. So we can easily fill in the blanks here. Area equals, it doesn't matter which one you designate as base 1 or base 2 because you're going to be adding them anyway. Let's just say base 1 here is 8. And base 2 is 6. The height is 3, and we divide by 2. So all we've done here is fill in the blanks now. Now we're going to start working on our equation. We haven't done order of operations yet. Normally you should have done this in grade 5 or 6, but we always do brackets first, or parentheses. 8 plus 6 gives us a total of 14. Now I like to do one step at a time. So the next step would be 2 times 14 times 3. Now, maybe you want to do that in your head and go, well, 14 plus 14 plus 14, which would probably be the easiest way to do it. So you could do, well, 4, 8, 12. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, which would give you 42. Maybe you went over here to the side and you did 14 times 3. 3 times 4 is 12. 1 times 3 is 3 plus 1 is 4. Either way, as long as you get to 42, you're good. And don't forget, we got to divide by 2. And 42 divided by 2 gives us a total of 21 centimeters squared, which would be the area of this trapezoid. So let's repeat that. We need to add both of our unequal bases together because we're going to find the average of them. We're going to multiply by the height, and we're going to divide by 2 because, again, we're finding the average of them. The base 1 is 8, base 2 is 6. So 8 plus 6 gives us 14. 14 times 3 gives us 42. And 42 cut in half is 21 centimeters squared. Let's work on a couple more examples together. All right, guys, here's another trapezoid. This one has a grid this time and not the digits given to you. So remember, from both parallelograms and triangles, when you're given a grid, what we need to do is count each space, because each one of these spaces is 1 centimeter. So let's start with the first base here. 1, 2, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the bottom, or the base 1, is 8 centimeters. But remember, this is a trapezoid, which means base 1 at the top is going to be different. Or base 2, whatever. 1, 2, 3, 4. The one on the top here is only 4 centimeters. Okay, only 4 centimeters. Now the height is going to be the same no matter where. We want to go from base to base, so 1, 2, 3. So the height is going to be 3 centimeters. 3 centimeters. So there you go. Now think back. What formula can I use? Well, it's the same no matter what trapezoid I'm working on. It's area equals base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2. So let's fill in the blanks. Base 1, let's just call it 8. It doesn't matter if you do 4 plus 8 or 8 plus 4. It's the same answer. Plus 4 times the height of 3 divided by 2. All right? We work with our brackets first. So 8 plus 4 is 12. So let's go 12. I'm going to just fill in the rest. Now on the next row, we multiply. 12 times 3 gives us 36. 36. And lastly, 36 divided by 2 is 18 centimeters squared. Now, again, this example is just like some of the other ones. We have a base 1, we have a base 2, we have a height. We use the formula and apply and fill in the blanks to find our equation. Because both bases are not the same lengths, we're going to add them together and then divide them by 2 to average them out, just like if we were finding mean. Remember when we're doing median and there's 2 middle numbers? We want to find the average of those 2 middles, so we add them together and divide by 2. It's the same with this. We want to find the average of base 1 and base 2. So that's what we do here. And of course, we need to multiply by the height to give us the other dimension there. Let's try one last example here. All right, guys, here's our last example. Sorry, I realized the top's probably cut off there. It's 2 centimeters. See if I could just arch my camera a little. There we go. So here's another trapezoid, and we have some measurements here. So let's go ahead and use our formula. Area equals base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2. So let's start with base 1. We'll just call this base 1. 6 plus base 2, which is 2, times the height. Now here I have 2 numbers. I have 6 and 7. Which one of those is the height? Now, if you were talking about 6, you'd be correct, because 6 is the distance from one base to the other. 7 is the side length. Just like when we did parallelograms, we don't measure the side length for height. Sorry, we don't measure the side length for height. We measure the height. So it's 6. This is just to throw you off, and there will be examples where that'll be included. Let's go. 6 plus 2 gives us 8. And I just fill in the rest here. 8 times 6 is 48 And 48 divided by 2 is 24 meters, squared. So guys, there's really nothing else here for trapezoids. Make sure you add both the bases together before you multiply by the height and then divide by 2. So it's only one more step. Base times height was parallelogram. Base times height divided by 2 was triangle. Now for the final shape of trapezoid, we add the bases together, then times the height, then divide by 2. And remember, don't use the side length. Make sure you use the height. Otherwise, guys, there is a practice sheet for you to work on. It's only 6 questions, relatively straightforward. There's one more sheet tomorrow, and then I believe we are done. Starting when you get back next week, we're going to work on irregular shapes, which are basically one more step up from this. And then we will be done our area unit and can move into percents and fractions next. Otherwise, guys, hopefully you understand. Watch the video a few times if you need, and if you're still confused, feel free to message me. Talk to you soon. Bye now.